We now come to the next urgent question. Gardiner.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I beg to leave to ask the Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs if he will make a statement on the situation in Bangladesh and recent attacks on the Hindu community there.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. The UK has a long-standing commitment to the protection of human rights. The UK champions freedom of religion or belief for all, and no one should live in fear because of what they do or do not believe in. We're working to uphold the right to freedom of religion or belief through our position at the UN, G7 and other multilateral fora and in our important bilateral work. And just last month, as he is aware, I visited Bangladesh and as part of the programme met with the Chief Advisor, Professor Dr Yunus, and Foreign Affairs Advisor Tawhid Hossain. During the meeting with Chief Advisor Yunus, I was able to discuss the full range of bilateral issues, including the importance of protecting religious minorities in Bangladesh. The UK government supports freedom of religion or belief and freedom of expression in Bangladesh through both our political advocacy and development programme funding. We're providing up to $27 million from March 23 to February 28 under the Bangladesh Collaborative, Accountable and Peaceful Politics programme for protecting civic and political space, and specifically on the question of the Hindu community in Bangladesh. I was able to be given reassurances from the government, the interim government there, that in the lead up to Durga Puja, which is the national festival, that support was available for minority communities in Bangladesh. We were pleased to see the establishment of a special policing unit which was active in protecting mondaps, which is the Hindu worship sites, as I'm sure he's aware. The UK government will continue to monitor the situation, including making representations from this House and engage with the interim government of Bangladesh on the importance of freedom of religion or belief, specifically as it affects the Hindu community.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and thank you for allowing this urgent question. Since the fall of the previous government in August of this year, Bangladesh has seen more than 2,000 incidents of violence, most of which have been targeted against the minority Hindu community. Hindus make up less than 10% of the Bangladesh population, and my honourable friend will be aware that anti-Hindu violence has been a recurrent event in the country, and indeed the Jamaat-e-Islami party was earlier this year banned after riots in which 200 people were killed. But whilst Bangladesh no longer has the secular constitution of 1971 and became an Islamic state in 1988, there are nonetheless supposed to be protections for minority religions under Articles 28, 39 and others of the Constitution. These appear not to be being enforced, and there are reports of police and armies standing by as more than 20 places of minority Hindu and Sufi worship were vandalised and their worshippers attacked. On Friday, this came to a head when extremist groups from the Jamaat-e-Islami party attacked 2 Hindu temples in Chittagong and conducted a campaign of orchestrated violence against the Hindu population. A leading Hindu monk, Chinmoy Krishna Das, who is a former leader of the ISKCON Krishna consciousness movement, has been arrested. ISKCON is a worldwide branch of modern Hinduism with its UK headquarters at Bhaktivedanta Manor in Bushey, many of whose worshippers live in my own constituency of Brent West and the surrounding areas of northwest London. People are concerned that whilst he was engaged in exclusively peaceful protest, he has been denied due process, charged with sedition and refused bail. Yet none of the individuals who attacked the temples has been apprehended or charged. On Saturday, the senior Bangladeshi journalist Muni Saha was taken into police custody following an attack on her car by a large mob in Dhaka and only released under the provisions of the Criminal Code. The situation is clearly on a knife edge, and with such large diaspora populations in the UK and with large Hindu communities with strong links to the community in Bangladesh, I'd ask my honourable friend what more she can do to have discussions with the Bangladeshi government to ensure that, and with other partners in the region, to ensure that tensions are lowered, the rule of law put into effect, and calm and order restored.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and the honourable member is quite right to raise these concerns, and our High Commission based in Dhaka is discussing in detail with the interim government of Bangladesh how to verify the number of any incidents or attacks against communities or indeed small businesses where there have been reports of attacks on small businesses, to record those and to take remedial action and indeed to work on prevention. And that is why in the week that we visited, we were very pleased to hear that this special policing unit had been set up. We stand ready to offer advice on law and order, but know that this is part of the roadmap towards a more stable Bangladesh. We are aware of the statement of concern from the Indian government following the arrest of Chinmoy Krishna Das, a well-known Hindu leader, on sedition charges, and the UK FCDO desk is closely monitoring those developments.
We now come to the Secretary of State, Priti Patel.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Right Honourable Member for this UQ. It's an important subject, and he's also raised the arrest of the ISKCON leader, and it's a place of worship I too am very familiar with, near his constituency. But, Mr. Speaker, these are deep and long-standing ties between our two countries, and the Minister herself is right to point out that even though she's visited Bangladesh recently, as my right honourable friend, the member opposite, has said, the degree of escalation in the violence is deeply, deeply concerning. And what we are witnessing now is just uncontrolled violence in many quarters. And we are now watching with horror and shock as further violence is spread in Bangladesh. And all our thoughts in this House are most definitely with the diaspora community here and those who are affected in Bangladesh. These are deeply disturbing reports. The Minister herself mentioned the deadly attacks and the violence that took place during what is an auspicious period, the Durga Puja festival in 2021. So given the current instability in Bangladesh and since the departure of the former Prime Minister in August, this is a moment of deep concern. Many governments are condemning the violence and calling for peace and law and order to be restored. So I welcome the comments from the Minister, but I must emphasise that all efforts must be taken now. We have a religious leader who has now been arrested. We need to know effectively what is being done to secure his release, due process in particular. But at the same time, can the Minister give details of the government's engagement with the government on this particular matter? What discussions have taken place? And have we been robust in pursuing the right to protect life, the prevention of violence and persecution, and importantly, tolerance for religious belief? What efforts has the government undertaken to build upon the last government's work to promote freedom of religion and belief in Bangladesh? And can the Minister say what discussions are taking place with other international partners to help restore this kind of stability that we desperately need to see in Bangladesh?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The protests following the July and August student-led events were deeply troubling, and of course led to the fall of the government there. And the opposition spokesperson is quite correct in emphasising the nature of these worrying protests. And our constituents are concerned, which is why the member for Brent has brought this important question here today. And these do include reported cases of retaliatory attacks against allies of the former regime, including Hindu minority. And some of these attacks are allegedly politically motivated and are of concern. And that's why I had it at the top of my agenda when I met with Professor Dr. Yunus. And that's why the effort was made to set up this particular policing unit. And of course, our High Commission is active more than any other that I could see when I was there in guiding, in helping, in supporting a peaceful transition to a new government, elections eventually, and indeed to a harmonious future. And anywhere in the world where freedom of religion or belief is at risk, there we will be standing up for the rights of minority groups.
Laura Kyrke-Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many constituents in Aylesbury have raised these concerns about the safety of Hindus in Bangladesh, and they've shown me extremely concerning social media content containing threats to Hindus to leave the country or face extermination. Does the Minister agree that this is unacceptable, and can the Minister outline what representations she has made to the government of Bangladesh to ensure that those who are inciting and perpetrating this violence are held to account?
I thank the Honourable Lady, and she's doing the excellent work representing her constituents who are concerned about these acts of violence. And I want to impress upon her that the UK was one of the first ministerial support to arrive in Dhaka and to speak with the Chief Advisor, Professor Yunus, and to be vocal in support of minorities.
Monica Harding, the Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We share the concerns from across this House regarding these attacks. And I note that the Minister has spoken to her Bangladeshi counterparts and urge her to continue. The most recent Foreign Office Human Rights and Democracy report lists Bangladesh as a human rights priority and highlights reports of harassment, particularly towards Hindu minorities, often incited online. That report recognises that UK funding through civil society organisations supported freedom of religion or belief and community mediation processes. Can the Minister update us on the progress being made using UK funding to combat religious discrimination in Bangladesh? Does this funding risk being another casualty of the latest ODA cuts? And will the government support our call for an ambassador-level champion of freedom of religion and belief so that the UK can do more to ensure that the rights of Hindus and all religious minorities are protected and upheld?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her suggestions for the government, and I can confirm that the Deputy Prime Minister said in Parliament on the 20th of November that the envoy appointments are under ministerial consideration and will be decided upon in due course. So she will hear presently about the freedom of religion or belief representative. But could I also explain to her that regardless of any ministerial visit, the treatment of minorities will always be uppermost on our agenda with the government which we're visiting. And specifically on her question regarding funding, we're providing up to $27 million from March 2023 to February 2028 under the Bangladesh Collaborative, Accountable and Peaceful Politics Programme for protecting civic and political space, fostering collaboration, reducing corruption and mitigating tensions that lead to violence, which is the sort of programme that we have where a country is a human rights concerned country.
Dr. Rupahat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to my friend and neighbour from Brent for raising these very important issues. We must be vigilant against all attacks on minorities, be they Buddhists, Christians and Hindus in Bangladesh. Would she agree with me that since that country's formation in 1971, these kind of communal tensions are sadly not new? Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have sent me a list of different flashpoint events. Between 1974 and 2001, the Hindu population in Bangladesh decreased from 13.5% to 8.5%. So this is not a new phenomenon. We must be vigilant. But can I caution her that there may be, after a regime collapsed, after the murder of 800 students in the summer, there may be some people who may seek to exploit these tensions. We need to stamp on it hard. And can she also assure us that we're doing all we can to transition that country to democracy in what people are calling Bangladesh 2.0?
I thank the Honourable Lady, who is a champion of human rights in this House, and I thank her for her particular interest in Bangladesh. And
Right. Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I congratulate my constituency neighbour and thank you for granting the urgent question. It's sad that the Minister has to come to answer an urgent question when asked last Thursday for a statement on the floor of the House on this particular issue. At the moment, we've got a position whereby Hindus are suffering with their houses being burnt, the businesses being ransacked, priests being arrested, and I understand 2 further were arrested over the weekend, and 63 monks were denied access to the country. So the clear issue here is an attempt at ethnic cleansing of Hindus from Bangladesh. So will the Minister come out and outright condemn this violence against Hindus and not just have words of piety, but actually absolute condemnation for what's going on, where we have a position where religious minorities are being deliberately persecuted because of their religion?
Minister.
thank you, Mr. Speaker, and he must rest assured that it was at the top of my agenda with Dr. Yunus, who is the interim government leader there, and it was very much at the forefront of our discussion, and in terms of other similar nations, we were there first ministerial visit, and it was absolutely top of the list, and there can be nothing like a face-to-face with the person in charge to underline the importance of freedom of religion or belief, and in this case specifically attacks against the minority Hindu community.
Paula Barker.
Speaker, and may I congratulate my honourable friend on securing this important UQ today. I represent a diverse community across my Liverpool-Wavertree constituency. Both Muslims and Hindus alike in Liverpool have made representations to me over the growing sectarian violence, the slide to extremism, and particularly the persecution of the Hindu minority. The violence faced by minorities on religious and political grounds must stop. So what representations are the UK government making at the United Nations over this matter, and are we confident the interim government in Dakar can get a grip of this?
I thank the Honourable Lady from Liverpool Wavertree and commend her for her commitment to the communities in her constituency, and want to emphasise that the visit that we carried out, that I carried out last month, had freedom of religion or belief, protection of minorities and general law and order right at the top of the agenda, and the UK is at hand to support Bangladesh at this difficult time where law and order and stability are at risk.
Sir Desmond.
Clearly, it would have been expedient to have had a special envoy on religious freedom in place. It's all very well her saying that it's under ministerial consideration. What's the problem? Haven't they got anyone committed enough or talented enough to do it?
I'm a big believer in mainstreaming all of these important areas, because sometimes if you have a freedom of religion or belief person, then that lets the minister off the hook. But no, I see it as my responsibility, and my responsibility only as the representative of the UK in Dhaka, to make the case for the Hindu community or any other persecuted minority. I'm not going to wash my hands of it and let somebody else do it. It's being mainstreamed across every single ministerial brief as we speak.
Amanda Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Residents in Portsmouth North have loved ones and family members in Bangladesh, and like this House are concerned about their safety and security. Does the Minister agree with me that we want to see a peaceful pathway to an inclusive and democratic future for Bangladesh? And, Mr. Speaker, can she give us in this place and Portsmouth North constituents information on how this is being advanced?
Thank the Honourable Lady for her question. First of all, of course, the visit face-to-face with the leadership of the country, but secondly, our ongoing support. The High Commission in Dhaka is very involved with the keeping of law and order, with the advising on anything leading towards the safe holding of elections in sometime in 2025, and indeed in listening to the voices who have been so affected by the violence over July and August, and in specific terms for today's urgent question to the Hindu minority community.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A number of members of the Hindu community in mid-Buckinghamshire have contacted me deeply concerned about the situation in Bangladesh, and I urge the Minister to take every diplomatic step possible to protect Hindus in that country. And in that vein, can I ask her if she believes whether Bangladesh's constitution, which guarantees equal status and equal rights in the practice of religion, does provide for a reliable legal basis through which to domestically prosecute cases of religiously motivated violence?
We stand ready to assist Bangladesh as it goes forward with its difficult roadmap towards elections eventually. And today's question is so important because law and order is crucial at this fragile time. But we are there to be friends, to be supportive, and to provide any legal assistance that we can offer that country as it goes forward.
Gurinder Singh Chauhan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister reassure the House on the importance of religion and belief in Bangladesh and across the world in all nations, particularly for minorities? The Minister will appreciate the long-standing and deep ties of the Hindu community in the UK with Hindus in Bangladesh. So can the Minister please detail what engagement she's had with the UK Hindu community on this issue? Does she believe that engagement is important? And indeed with Bangladeshi community in the UK who are also appalled at what's going on?
I thank the honourable gentleman for his question, and of course when I was in Bangladesh I was able to speak specifically about the law and order question and concerns that had been raised in this House with me when we had our engagement event, which was cross-party, and indeed I commit to doing another one of those to explain exactly the content of my discussions while I was in Bangladesh. But could I also respond to his question regarding how I've been learning in the role? And I was delighted to go to the London Borough of Brent and to visit the temple, the Neasden Temple, and to learn about Diwali. And I had an exceptional visit there with the British Asian Trust and learned so much. And that was a prelude to Diwali, a prelude to my wonderful visit then subsequently to India after Bangladesh. And I'm on a wonderful journey. I'm falling in love.
Jim Shannon.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for her commitment to addressing issues of religious freedom and human rights. Over that 16-day period, 2010 people reported incidents on 69 Hindu temples, 157 families were attacked, looted, vandalised, set on fire, and 9 Hindus lost their lives. What steps can the UK take to work with the Bangladeshi government and international partners to promote religious minorities in Bangladesh, ensure accountability for these heinous crimes, and promote the fundamental right to freedom of religion or belief for all? Will the government consider raising these issues at the UN or through direct diplomatic engagement to ensure swift and decisive response? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, there can be no greater champion for freedom of religion or belief than the member for Strangford, who worked so closely with the member for Congleton in the former Parliament. And he quite rightly monitors every single event and details them here. And I will undertake to write back on exactly the instances which he mentions, and also to leave a copy in the library for other members to look at.
Kirsten Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some of my constituents from the growing Indian community in Winchborough are increasingly concerned about the accounts of horrific acts of violence towards the Hindu community in Bangladesh. Does the Minister agree with me that violence against Hindus or any other religious minorities is entirely unacceptable? And what reassurance can she provide my constituents that the UK Government is supporting all efforts to protect the freedom of religion and belief?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and could I commend her as a new member on her calling for that freedom of religion or belief, or freedom not to have a belief, which is so important to the work that we do in this regard. And could I reassure her that not only was it the top of my agenda when I visited Bangladesh, but also that we continue to monitor any instances of violence, of lack of law and order, and to offer support where we can to the interim government of Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I congratulate my honourable friend for securing this urgent question, and I thank the Minister for her response. The Minister will be aware that a significant number of the Bangladeshi Hindu diaspora in the UK have expressed significant concern around the attacks on the Hindu community in Bangladesh, including those in my own constituency. She may be aware that several Bangladeshi Hindu community organisations within the UK have written to the Foreign Secretary recently requesting a meeting. Could I ask the Minister what efforts she and the Foreign Secretary are going through to engage with the community, and would they be willing to agree a meeting to discuss their concerns and hear what action this government is taking?
I'm very happy to attend a meeting, as I'm sure the Foreign Secretary will be too, and also obviously as part of learning about the brief I intend to visit a number of different places of worship to emphasise the importance of minority faith groups and to reassure them that when we're doing our work abroad, not just at home, that we're talking about the importance of the freedom of religion or belief or no belief. Thank you.
Sam Cullen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Several of my constituents in North West Cambridgeshire have been in touch incredibly concerned about family members that they have in Bangladesh. And those family members are living in extreme fear and have done for some time, but particularly since August. The reports of increasing violence against the Hindu community are disturbing. Can I ask the Minister how the government intends to support human rights in Bangladesh and support the Bangladeshi community in my constituency as they go through this difficult time?
The youngest member of the House for his concern regarding Bangladesh and the minority communities in Bangladesh, and as their Member of Parliament, his constituents can be informed through the meeting that I will hold as the member responsible with the brief, and I will invite all members to it so that if anybody would like to come with specific examples, we will have desk there and we'll be able to answer any questions which are forthcoming. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
That completes the urgent